to the Enterati studio on day 2 at Charge 2016, the world's first energy branding conference. I'm not tired of saying that. This is wonderful. What a time we're living in. I'm joined by Camus, communication advisor at ENTSO-E. Claire, how are you doing?
I'm fine.
Great. How are you finding the show so far?
It's really excellent. It's a great show, and the energy branding is a wonderful subject. I'm very happy to be here.
Okay, look, I'm going to say that again. What a time to be alive. So, look, one of the big topics has been transmission and distribution operators talking about branding, and I'm left thinking, what have you done with these guys? Who are these guys? They turn around and they become brand ambassadors. It'll all make sense now. Can you tell us a bit about ENTSO-E?
ENTSO-E is the European Association of Transmission System Operators. So we're representing more than 40 companies in 35 countries, and transmission is the part of the value chain where you take electricity from where it's generated and you bring it to large consumers or distributors. So that's part of the electricity system.
And look, ultimately, at the end of the day, it's impact, right? The strength of the person talking about the topic tells you about how far it permeates.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing that Claire has kind of maybe humbly not mentioned is you do a lot with cross-border transmission.
Absolutely. So what we're doing is we say that we are reliable, sustainable, and connected. So reliable, we have to make sure that our clients get electricity 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, a good quality of electricity, so that's the reliable part. Then sustainable, we're the ones that are enabling the energy transition in Europe, because by 2050 we would have to have in the power system 45% of renewables. That's a lot, and all this energy is usually produced in the North Seas or in non-urbanized areas, and we have to transport this electricity then to the big cities and stuff like that. And then finally, we're connected because we are connecting countries with other countries, so European countries together, and also power markets together, so that as a producer, you can sell your electricity everywhere in Europe without any problems, any barriers.
Well, you see, that's really interesting, because we've heard from a couple of distributors, right? And they've been key to point out, the future is going to be probably more centralized, more energy. But I guess the reality, and look, the majority of large-scale renewable generation, especially wind, isn't centralized.
No.
So the transmission guys are still important.
Yeah.
What does engine, when you think of energy consumers, transmission doesn't actually come to my mind.
No.
I think of pylons and cables, and we'll come to that later on.
Yeah.
Can you tell me what engagement actually means for you then? What does consumer engagement mean for a transmission operator?
For a transmission operator, consumer engagement is very important if you want to have this legitimacy. It's the same for ENTSO-E. We don't actually engage directly with consumers, but with representations of consumers. And it's important that they see we are legitimate in our role. And how we do that is to build trust. That means we have to explain and to engage with them and make them aware and understand what we do, why we're doing it, and if possible, integrate them in the decision as early as possible, because otherwise they will, in this world, you can just say, oh, I'm doing that, I'm building this line because I've decided. You will be questioned, and the money you get, it's public money, so why are you spending it on this or on that? So it's a new world, and people are getting more and more interested in the power system, how it functions. So it's normal for a company like ENTSO-E or for any transmission operator to really focus on consumer engagement nowadays.
Let me ask you a quick question, because look, I get the top view in a world where consumers actually cared about the workings of the energy system, and also, is this actually because consumers are asking, what do transmission operators actually do? Is this to explain the disruptions when upgrades are being made? What is the real consumer engagement here? I mean, I'm an energy consumer, and my real engagement largely is around my bill.
No, absolutely.
So where do you come in?
Well, this is going to change, I think. For the moment, it's really like that. But now we're moving into this new digital era, as you're saying. So as a consumer, you're not going to be passive and just receive your bill and that's it. You're going to become a sort of provider of flexibility, as we say. That means that against retribution, you will decide, okay, today I'm helping the grid manage, because there is a peak in demand, and I agree to, I don't know, reduce my consumption by X%, and you will get money from the system for that. And you will need to get interested in how the system works, when you can make good deals, when your interest is there. And that is through the technology, the smart apps, the smart meters, and so forth. And the network operators are going to be the facilitator for you to get into the power markets, for you to play a different role than you actually are playing now.
Okay, well, I kind of feel empowered now. So this is talking about the future power system, really.
Yes.
And for all the want and the intention, and you do sound really convincing.
Yeah.
I always feel like I'm going to start trading energy now.
Yeah.
My question to you really is, you're not a charity.
No.
At the end of the day, we've all got bills to pay ourselves.
Absolutely.
So what's in it for you? Why are these guys why are we important again?
Because what we're seeing is that with a growing variable generation, it's causing the system some stress, because of course when the sun is not shining or the wind is not blowing, you have to replace that generation with something else. So it's either with very often polluting other sort of thermal generation, or by acting on demand. So for us, all the new flexibility services like storage, active demand response, and other sorts of flexibility, they are very interesting for the system. They will help us do our job in a cost-efficient way, and at the same time, serve the customers better. So it's a win-win situation.
And if you want to hear more about demand response, about flexibility, and even theirs, definitely check out our webinars with eDistribution. That's the distribution end of Enel and National Grid UK. Some really fascinating stuff, elaborating on some of Claire's points. Claire, I want to come back to you. You mentioned that push-pull effect. What will actually start that engagement? Some of it is apps. Some of it is educating and soliciting conversation. Where do you think the real driver will be? Because I can imagine from a retail perspective, the app makes more sense and competition, right? But from a transmission perspective, it's probably more delicate, isn't it?
Yes, I think we're working with the European institutions and the European partners on how we can activate this demand, how we can make this new ecosystem happen. And this is a lot to do with the market design, as we call it. So the rules, how power markets are open to new players and so forth. And this is coming up. I mean, at the end of this year or next year, a new set of legislation, of European legislation, is going to be published. And it's all about that. It's all about making power markets open to representatives of consumers, of new technologies, and so in the power market, I think, the rules, how markets are operating are really key in enabling this new power system. Also, the prices. So for the moment, you are paying a flat rate, and what we're saying is that prices should be more sensitive to the actual situation of the system. If there is really a shortage of energy, electricity should be costing more, so that you as a consumer get a signal, oh, I need to react and I need to change my behavior. If you don't have that price signal, nothing's going to happen really.
So this is really engagement, but not just for the fancy sake of it. This is going to affect flexibility,
Absolutely.
behavior change.
And it's overall, it's also diminishing the cost of the power system in the long run. So.
Okay, so what are some of the things you're doing right now? Some of the ways you're actually starting that changing of perception from pylons and cables?
So we're engaged in a lot of discussion on markets. So we're working with power exchanges and so forth, and also on data management. This is the next big thing for the transmission for any network operator, because a lot of data is flowing into the system, transmission and distribution, and a lot of is to go back to the consumers and all the other parties. So that's really our next big role, I think, and we're trying now to create with the distribution side a sort of a framework or standards on how data is flowing from the consumer to the system and back, and also on who will manage data hubs, how data will be available or not to third parties. So that's really a really interesting part of the system that no one can really see right now. But that's really the future. So pylons and cables will unfortunately always exist because there's no technological alternative. But really the rest, the market and the digital aspects are really the next big missions for transmission.
Awesome. Well, I think that's a brilliant place for us to bring this interview to an end. So thank you very much, Claire.
Thank you.
And thank you as well for tuning into this session. If you'd like to hear more about distribution and transmission and how they're getting involved in defining the new energy system and customer engagement and how you can get involved in the power system of the future, please check out the other interviews on the screen. Check out the ENTSO-E page as well.
That's okay.
And also Engerati for more insights on associated issues. Thank you.